This is not a French film, and we did not visit France. This Citroen CX25 GTI is available here, if in somewhat limited numbers. Only a few thousand come in each year. CX Auto of Lebanon, New Jersey is the importer. But importer may be the wrong word, since CX Auto is also responsible for making sure these cars meet U.S. safety and emission standards. For legal reasons, the car loses the Citroen name. The importer would like it known as a CX Auto CX, so from here on, we'll oblige. That said, the CX is about the most distinctive-looking sedan we've ever tested. During its stay with us, it turned more heads than the Lotus Esprit Turbo we showed you a few weeks back. It's hard to believe the car's teardrop shape was designed more than a decade ago. Many features of the CX are ahead of their time. Some are plain intelligent, and others are simply odd. As for intelligent, the CX has a very long wheelbase for its length. Notice how little metal hangs beyond the front or rear wheels. This makes for a very roomy interior. Even our tallest drivers didn't complain about head or leg room in either the back or front seat. Speaking of which, the seats are also big and comfortable like beanbag chairs of the 70s, which means they are also short on support for the lower back. Adjustment is fully manual and gimmick-free. Major controls are located on pods at a finger reach from the steering wheel. The lights and turn signals are on the left, and they work with this rocker switch. It's tough to get used to, but after a few miles of spirited lane changing, you'll be converted. The horn and wipers are on the opposite side. The rocker switch here works the washers and intermittent wiper. The CX's heat and air conditioning controls will send you searching for the owner's manual. While not too easy to understand immediately, the system also works well once you do get the hang of it. The radio is one of those oddities we were talking about. It's between the seats and sideways, so you either have to memorize the location of the buttons and work by feel, or only operate the radio at stoplights. The speedometer and tach are large enough, and the unique one-spoke steering wheel ensures they're never blocked. The two smaller gauges are for fuel and oil level. The latter works only before the engine runs, and is a special French car curiosity we've seen before on Renaults. The 5-speed shifter in our GTI model had long throws. It did always go where it was pushed, despite the feeling it was attached to miles of linkage. A 3-speed automatic is available. We tried one in another CX variation, the Prestige. The Prestige is pretty much the same car with 10 extra inches of space between the wheels, so there's enough extra room back here for an MBA center or two. As for luggage room, there's plenty provided your luggage is low or lays flat. The trunk opening is awfully small. If you really need more room, a CX estate wagon is also offered. The CX is pulled along by the front wheels and a fuel-injected 150 horsepower engine. This 4-cylinder measures 2.5 liters. And considering its size and power output, it's quiet and civilized compared to the 4s in some American cars. A 185 horsepower turbocharged motor is still being developed. For those of you who care, a 3-way catalyst is installed to get the engine past U.S. emission standards. Our car's non-turbo motor did quite a good job at moving the CX's 3,200 pounds. Power comes on low in the revs, which should please most American drivers. Our GTI made an impressive run to 60 miles per hour that lasted only 10.4 seconds. Time to the end of the quarter mile was 17 seconds. The final speed, 81. One of the most interesting things about the CX is that it doesn't feel like a front-drive car while it's accelerating. There's virtually no tendency for the steering wheel to pull away from your hand. That has a lot to do with the way the CX's suspension has been designed. The car's front suspension arms face forward, which keeps the front wheel geometry fairly constant. In addition, the car isn't suspended by springs, but by compressed nitrogen and hydraulic fluid. This hydro-pneumatic suspension, in addition to adjusting for height, adjusts automatically to compensate for load. Highway ride is supple but controlled. It's not nearly as stiff as any other European model you may have driven. The only drawback is noise the suspension generates over some irregular road surfaces. When the road gets twisty, the CX behaves like most French cars we've tried. The body leans, the nose plows, and the rear end stays glued to the road. Slow, careful steering inputs are best if you want to take full advantage of the CX suspension. The oddest thing is the CX's steering. The wheel gets a heavy feel as speed increases, but the feel is synthesized. Overall, handling feels stable and safe. So do the brakes, but therein lies another oddity. Pedal travel is very short, and the brakes seem to operate with the slightest tap of the pedal. There again, there's nothing really wrong, it's just different. Once you get used to the feel of the pedal, it's very easy to modulate the pressure you need to stop the car. In addition, the brakes are anti-lock. Our car stopped from 55 using just 107 feet of pavement on average, a very good number. Here's another good number, 68. That's how many decibels of sound the CX generates at 55 miles per hour. Quiet. EPA ratings are 16 city and 21 highway. We experienced 21 in all-around driving. Now to a number you may be less happy with, $29,800, the GTI's base price. Our car came to $33,430. But then buyers should know that they have a unique prestige machine with a limited number of copies. In that context, this CX's price is very reasonable. CX Auto says buyers are trading, among other things, BMWs for CXs. So for comparison, the BMW 528e is priced about the same and has similar acceleration, but it doesn't have the CX's interior room, cushy ride, or head-turning ability. If you always wanted an exotic car, but with 4 doors and the room of a sedan, the highly intelligent CX should interest you. And if you're one of those people who always wanted a Citroen SM, but couldn't find one before Citroen pulled out of the U.S. market, we think a CX Auto CX will more than suffice. And if you just want something different, no cars dare to be more different.